I'm Andre Hugh and this is St. Martin Island Time TV News. The government of St. Martin is now considering the imposition of a 6% turnover tax on goods that are brought into the island. According to the Finance Minister, the Honourable Rguez-Allen, there has been a sharp increase in the amount of goods that are being purchased abroad and brought into the island. This, the Minister says, is having a devastating impact on local businesses who employ people and pay turnover taxes.
There are more direct purchases given the global trade that we have now. Before, everybody went to our businesses that we have here and purchased the needs. We're seeing a shift in where there is a substantial reduction in sales from local companies, local businesses we have here, because more and more is being imported directly from abroad. Of course, no 6% TOT taxes is paid on those imports. And in the meantime, business levels of local companies are on the decline. And that means also that less people will be employed, less expansion. So it's something that we need to look at and do something about. And perhaps we have to think about imposing the 6% TOT also on goods that are brought in, because the TOT law is there, and if it has such a disastrous effect on local companies, some of them even claim that they have a reduction of 30% in their turnover. It is alarming.
The Adult Entertainment Foundation of St. Martin is currently hemorrhaging as a result of government's efforts to bring about changes in the industry. That's according to attorney Yarrow Bloom, the lawyer representing the foundation. He told reporters on Tuesday afternoon that the sudden stoppage of the processing of papers for adult workers is now forcing some establishments to close.
There is nothing against government drafting, planning possible new policy. Okay, certainly not if that policy is aimed at improving the industry on the overall. I think that the adult entertainment clubs welcome that, specifically when it comes to the situation that you cannot formally talk about employment of sex workers that are, as I say, intrinsically self-employed. However, the process of coming to a new policy not only takes time, it should be one in which the clubs are involved as much as possible, because they are operating this business. In the past, some 20 years ago, the clubs were also actively involved in the policy that came to place. That is not to say that everything that has been incorporated in that policy was sanctioned by the club owners, but their feedback was requested. Government has not called any one of these clubs at any point in time to talk about a possible new policy, to ask them, what do you think, what do you feel, what are your concepts, what are the delicate points? No. The clubs are legitimate businesses operating on St. Martin. They have obligations just like any other enterprise. And for government not for them to have to learn through the media that a new policy is in the making, but government not even having the decency or being diligent enough to call them also to the table to discuss, I think is simply said inappropriate.
The funds owing to St. Martin, originating from the division of assets from the Netherlands Antilles, was the basis of a meeting between the Finance Minister of St. Martin, Rguez-Allen, and the Minister of Finance in Curaçao, Dr. Jose Hardim. The two finance ministers met in Curaçao last week, and according to Minister Gibson, the talks were productive.
That I was pleasantly surprised went quite well. There are some requirements or some desires that the Ministry of Finance would like to see happen. We're discussing that. One of them is Seapost, which is a company that remains after the dismantling of the Netherlands Antilles. We have approximately 7.8% in that company. It's a company basically operating in Curaçao. The minister has expressed interest in acquiring the shares that St. Martin have in that company, which we're going to look at. And there's another company in which is non-active, but in which there are funds that has to be shared. I think it's approximately 4 million guilders. That too is being looked at and discussed to try to finalize all these things in the next 2 months. So that is on track and going quite well based on this first meeting that I've had with the Minister of Finance of Curaçao.
Minister of Health Emmy Lee is speaking of the importance of health care insurance for residents and to ensure that everyone has access to affordable and quality health care.
I'm looking into how our insurance system is working on the island, how SZV is working. I'm finding that there really is too large a population here that is uninsured. And eventually that's going to be covered by our national health insurance program. But in the meantime, I had this conversation with a couple of insurance companies, including Maksud from Nagico Insurances. And based on our conversation, he has come up with a proposal for insurance for uninsured people on the island. In particular, what we're trying to do is we're trying to address the people who have sole proprietorships who have, in our current system, they have difficulty getting insurance. So this would apply to taxi drivers, bus drivers, vendors. There's a lot of small contractors, for example, maintenance people who are doing plumbing, construction work. But it also would apply, for example, some people have caretakers in their house or domestic help, some of whom are uninsured. And so we've worked together with Nagico to develop a policy. If you go to Nagico, they would refer to it as Sxm Medical. So if you go to Nagico, refer to Sxm Medical, they'll know which policy that you're referring to. And the idea was that this is a very affordable package. And the hope is that by aggregating the uninsured people into one policy, that they can realize substantial savings. I mean, they have a policy, for example, for a single person for less than $3 a day. So I think that that's something that's very affordable. And people need to understand that if you don't have health insurance and something happens to you, in the end, it may very often be your family, your friends, your loved ones who end up assuming the financial burden for the fact that you haven't managed to put a proper health insurance program in place.
This has been St. Martin Island Time TV News. I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.